In April 2961, simply weeks earlier than his demise, Gary Cooper made one final go-to his Montana ranch. What he left behind would live hidden for many years. A series of secret artwork, a saddle that modified Hollywood history, and memories that discovered the actual guy at the back of the legend. From his frightened breakdowns to his get-away-from reputation, this ranch held secrets and techniques that might surprise his biggest fanatics. Today, we are sooner or later sharing what they observed on the 7 Bar 9. Frank James Cooper, later called Gary Cooper, changed into born on May 7, 1901 in Helena, Montana. His mother and father, Charles and Alice, were from England. The nighttime he became born, a huge thunderstorm hit the town. People stated the loud thunderclap while toddler Frank first cried felt like nature pronouncing a person special was right here. Frank grew up surrounded by way of Montana's wild splendor. However, his dad and mom kept their English traditions. At domestic, Frank and his brother Arthur had to talk right British English and comply with strict desk manners, even whilst living within the untamed West. Frank's father changed into a legal professional and later a choose. He frequently took Frank to the Montana state capitol, wherein Frank watched debates and favored Western art at the partition. This mix of frontier existence and English values shaped who Frank became. In 1908, while Frank was just 7, a close-by dam burst, flooding the region. As the water rose, his mother grabbed Frank, jumped on a horse, and rode to safety. This close call stayed with Frank and gave him a deep recognize for nature's energy. Frank's adolescence had moments that hinted at his destiny. He received a competition by means of reciting a poem with a lot passion that the target audience gave him a standing ovation, and the group became a vaudeville performer who later stated that Cooper Boy could be a celeb in the future. No one believed it on the time, however, they could. When Frank was 5, his father bought a 600-acre livestock ranch referred to as the 7 Bar 9. Life on the ranch became hard. Frank awoke at dawn to do chores. Even in freezing climate, he, as soon as stated, shoveling manure at 40 beneath is not romantic. However, it teaches you loads. At 12, he had a frightening second while a bull charged him. He managed to get away by quickly guiding his horse right into a patch of timber. The ranch additionally sparked his hobby in Native American subculture. Workers once found artifacts like arrowheads even as digging properly, and Frank had become inquisitive about their records. When Frank turned into 9, his parents dispatched him and his brother to England for college. His mother desired them to get a proper training. Moving from ranch life to a strict English boarding faculty turned into tough. Frank stated it felt like going from roping livestock to reciting Shakespeare overnight. During faculty breaks, he loped back to Montana, telling classmates wild memories approximately ranch life. The idea he changed into making all of it up. Frank located a love for books and art. He loved Shakespeare and Dickens, which later helped him bring depth to his appearing. But he additionally had awkward moments, just like the time he wore cowboy boots and a Stetson to high school, causing a stir. World War I ended his time in England, and he returned to Montana in 1914. Back home, he struggled to fit in. His British manners made him stand out, and locals teased him for his accent. Still, he labored difficult to relearn ranching skills and reconnect with the land. At 17, Frank showed how particular he changed into. During a local rodeo, he gave a speech that combined cowboy slang with rates from Shakespeare. People were surprised. This capacity to balance tough and refined might later make him a Hollywood star. On his 15th birthday, Gary Cooper's existence modified forever. It changed into May 7th, 1916, in Helena, Montana, and Gary determined to go for a force with his friend Harvey Markham. The day started with excitement and fun. However, it ended in catastrophe. Harvey was using whilst the automobile all at once went out of manage. It flipped over time and again, earlier than touchdown the wrong way up. Gary became trapped below the brake, badly harmed and in terrible pain. When he sooner or later pulled himself free, he could barely stand. His left facet felt heavy and useless, find it irresistible, failed to belong to him. At the health center, doctors dealt with his cuts and bruises, however they failed to realize his hip turned into broken due to the fact they by no means took an X-ray. This mistake would alternate Gary's lifestyles all the time. His hip did not heal the manner it must have, and he could cope with the results for the rest of his lifestyles. The coincidence forced Gary to grow up speedy. He turned into now not a carefree boy. Now he had to cope with pain and healing. The health practitioner, no longer expertise how horrific his hip simply changed into, recommended that horseback using may help him heal. Thinking it changed into the right thing to do, Gary went again to his circle of relatives' ranch and commenced driving every day. But in preference to helping, it made things worse. The constant jolts from driving triggered his hip to heal incorrectly, leaving him with a limp and everlasting pain. Even though it changed into tough, Gary did not surrender. He spent hours on horseback, gritting his teeth via the ache. Over time, he advanced his own way of strolling and riding to address his harm. His stroll had become a chunk choppy, with a slight limp. However, it made him stand out. On horseback, he leaned slightly to one aspect, giving him a completely unique style that humans might later apprehend on display. In 1924, Gary Cooper turned into 23 years vintage when he left Montana and moved to Los Angeles. He wanted to be an artist. His father had already long gone there earlier that year to attend to some circle of relatives' estates, and Gary thought it became an appropriate time to comply with his dream. He had studied artwork in college for 2 years, or even drew cartoons for a newspaper back in Montana. He became confident in his skills, but matters did not pass as deliberate. Los Angeles was complete of people chasing their dreams. Gary tried to locate paintings in advertising and marketing, but struggled to get regular jobs. One of his first tasks turned into painting cough drop ads on theater curtains, which wasn't what he had imagined for himself. To survive, he took jobs he ought to discover, promoting signs, promoting a photographer's work, or even taking more artwork lessons whilst he had the hazard. He became doing his satisfactory, but existence wasn't easy. Then, in early 1925, the whole lot changed. Gary ran into 2 antique buddies from Montana who had been working as extras, and also turned into quiet and easy. However, it worked because it felt actual. Growing up in Montana, he wasn't a person who talked lots. He found more than he spoke. This translated to his performing. When he had trouble remembering strains, he could shorten them, and that gave his characters a relaxed, understated manner of speaking. Directors trendy this, saying he could display deep feelings with just his face or a small gesture. His overall performance in Sergeant York in 1941, wherein he played a real existence conflict hero, earned him an Oscar, as it became so heartfelt and sincere. Later, in High Noon in 1952, he performed a sheriff going through a moral crisis. Without announcing tons, he confirmed worry, bravery, and determination. This role gained him his 2D Oscar. Cooper didn't just end up a famous actor. He also had become one of the highest-paid humans in Hollywood. By 1937, he was income's $370,214 a 12 months, which nowadays could be like making tens of millions. In 1939, he made $482,819, making him the best incomes character within the United States. He was smart about cash, too. Instead of taking a massive paycheck in advance, he might ask for a part of the profits from his movies. This paid off, like in 1954, Vera Cruz, where he earned $4 million in overall. But his high income added issues too. In 1941, he owed $280,000 in lower back taxes and needed to promote his artwork series, which covered artwork by well-known artists like Picasso and Renoir. Gary Cooper lived an existence full of drama, ardor, and scandal. During the late 1920s, he have become famous now not just for his appearing, however, for his many love affairs with a number of Hollywood's largest stars. His dating with Lupe Velez commenced in 1929, when they worked together on The Wolf Song. Their romance changed into wild and intense, filled with public fights that everybody in Hollywood pointed out. At one party, Velez, jealous and angry, unzipped Cooper's pants in front of anybody to check for another girl's perfume. But it became not anything in comparison to what happened in 1930. During certainly one of their many fights, Velez located lipstick on his collar and snapped. She grabbed a knife and chased him through the residence. Despite trying to dodge her, she caught him in his take a look at and hurt his arm badly enough to require 15 stitches. Cooper's crew attempted to cover it up, announcing he had a family accident, but the truth in the end were given out. Still, Cooper didn't press expenses, and even got back collectively with Velez afterward, telling buddies, "That is simply Lupe. She loves with all her heart, and from time to time that includes her fists." The last chapter of Cooper and Velez's chaotic relationship took place in June 1931 at Union Station in Los Angeles. Cooper changed into at the station to seize a teach to New York earlier than leaving for Europe. Velez, furious about him leaving, rushed to the station and induced a scene. She shouted at him in the front of all people, calling him a son of a whinge, before pulling out a gun and firing a shot. The bullet neglected, hitting a pillar instead. However, it sent the group into panic. Cooper failed to appear scared, though. He boarded the teach while Velez disappeared into the crowd. The tale made headlines throughout the country,